Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of UK Boating. Today we're in Rugby and Stoke Bruin, and here's a look at what we've got coming up. We visit Hillmorton Wharf Marina, learn about the Hillmorton Lock Flight, and find out about working boats. But first, we look into canal art and its history. So Brian, in this feature today, I wanted to learn a bit more about canal art, but I know the things that you're going to tell us about specifically are a certain section of that. Can you take us through canal art and what we're looking at today?
Right, what we've got here, and particularly in the museum, is what we call narrowboat decoration.
Right.
It belongs roughly to the Midlands, London and associated waterways. And it goes on the boats that people lived on. In the early days, men and boys worked the boats. But then as families moved on to the boats with the railways coming, they took what was local, popular art form with them.
Right,
and if we look up here, we've got an example of old glass painting.
Yeah.
Victorian, fussy sort of way of painting. And they took that idea and painted it onto the insides of boats' cabins where people were living.
So yes, you can see the patterns coming through from that in all the things you see on the boats.
If we look at that, you've got water and the fields and the buildings and so on, and what have we got? Here behind us, we've got a table out of a boat's cabin.
Okay.
So there it is.
So how old are these sort of things? How far back does it all go?
The earliest known reference is about the 1840s.
Oh, quite a few years.
Oh yes, a long time before you and I. Dickens certainly wrote about it in the 1850s.
Right, yeah.
When there was a tour done on the Grand Junction Canal here, and he used it in a magazine that he edited, Household Words. And they refer to gaily painted jugs and things like this.
It is gaily painted, isn't it? That's exactly how
it is quite brightly painted, not to be confused with gypsies or showmen.
Yeah, so the previous misconceptions that occasionally happen.
It's often...
Is this what they call the castles and roses style?
Roses and castles.
Roses and castles, get it right, yes.
Yeah, and it was usually painted by dock painters because all over the waterway system you had docks where boats were built and repaired.
Right.
And each one would have somebody who did the painting. So they each had their own individual hand.
So you'd be able to tell where it's come from the style on it.
But also some of the boatmen did it themselves. They had a go, but they didn't do so much of it, so it wasn't as flourishy and as vibrant as the dock painters.
So the skills were at different levels depending who was done.
Yeah.
And Ryan, can you tell us what's happened to the style over the years?
Yeah, in the early days it was quite realistic. Then it became simplified to the style we see on these cans here.
Right.
And then commercial carrying finished in 1970. But of course there are lots of pleasure boats about.
Yes, yeah.
So more and more people now want the decoration on the boats. And Terence is going to show us all about
and
that.
I might even get a go, so we'll go and meet Terence.
You never know, so get your brush hand ready.
Terence, I've been learning about canal art and in particular the narrowboat decoration through Brian, and I know you do this in a modern day style, so can you take us through what you do?
They call it a modern day style because you would think I would paint modern day things.
Yes, yeah.
But no, I still paint the traditional items that we know from our history.
Right.
Items such as the water can.
Yeah.
This was a can filled with water for everybody on the boats to drink, to wash in. This was their domestic water.
Yeah.
So it was fill the can, stop, fill the can again, stop, fill the can again.
Yeah.
And this was everything they needed for the water systems.
Right.
And then they moved on to the hand bowls. The hand bowls, what they did all their domestics in, they're washing the faces, they're washing their pots.
Everyday things that it was seen.
Things.
Yeah.
And even down to the horses that pulled the boats. We even have the horse nose tin.
Right, okay. So even they get treated to it.
Even these were treated. They hung in the back cabins, out of the way, a lovely decorative piece sat in the back cabin.
Yeah, yeah. So
the
even
hand
the
bowls the same. Yeah. They would also be hanging in the back cabins of the boats.
Stunning, yes, brilliant. So every part of it is made decorative and useful.
Yes. Yeah. So if it stood still long enough, it got painted.
Wonderful, okay. So Terence, you've explained to me what's supposed to happen with all of this. Is there any chance I can have a go at a rose and see what actually happens when I have a go?
Yes, I was hoping you want to ask this.
Right.
Because I brought with me today a traditional cabin door.
Very smart.
Which is for a customer, and you're going to be painting the yellow rose.
So no pressure.
Don't mess it up because this door is actually 100 years old.
Oh my goodness.
It
right.
wasn't, I actually made it last week.
That's partly a relief, but I feel still for a customer there's some pressure there. All right, show me what I have to do then.
Right, very simple. Press on the brush and it gets fatter, lift the brush off and it gets thinner.
Right, okay.
Load it up again.
Yeah.
And if I go over that one just a second time and bring it underneath, that's the first petal.
Starting about there?
Yeah, about there, yeah.
And then
Press
go
on
thicker.
the brush, if you press the brush it'll get fatter. And let off the brush.
Oh my gosh, okay. Are you sure you wanted to let me loose?
If you say to yourself it looks right, then it is right.
I like that.
If it doesn't look
definitely.
right, then you do it
Yeah,
again.
This is exactly how it's meant to be. And then you did an arty-farty bit in the middle, so I'll just do a little bit
There
there.
you go.
How's that look?
My 5-year-old daughter would be very proud.
Thank you very much. So that is my attempt at doing a rose. Probably not something that Terence will be asking me back to help with. Now it's time to go over to Hillmorton Wharf Marina.
We're at Hillmorton Wharf Marina, which is situated on the outskirts of Rugby, about 3 miles from the town centre. We're on the Northern Oxford Canal. From here we can do a choice of routes, either north, where you can take in Coventry, the Northern Oxford Canal, Ashby Canal, or you can travel south. We're about 2 hours cruising from Broughton, which is classed as a centre of the canal system, and from there you can travel either south down to London, or southern Oxford, or north to Warwick.
It's the centre of the network. From here we can go north, south, east, west. It doesn't matter. In a few minutes we're down to Braunston, so no matter what the closures are during the winter.
A few minutes by car,
yeah,
about 2 hours by boat.
That's it.
So,
but in the
that's close.
closures, nothing is closed to us, because if the west side of the canals are closed in the winter, we can travel the east side. If the east is closed in the winter, we can travel the west side. It's fabulous.
Well, obviously, if you didn't want to cruise, from here you can take in, obviously, if you want to go into Rugby itself, you've got Rugby School, which is obviously very well known, and the Rugby Football Museum. You can travel a bit farther to Coventry, taking the Cathedral, the Transport Museum, which is, well worthwhile going to see, and obviously then outside Warwick Castle and various places around in the countryside. Well, the history of the marina is that it was built in the mid-70s. We have moorings for around 24 boats from various lengths, from 40 up to 70 foot. Most people like to come here simply because we class it as a small, friendly marina.
One of the reasons we like it is because it's small. We don't want to be moored up in a 300 boat park. This is lovely. Our neighbour helped us moor when we first pulled in.
And we had friends came and visited us almost immediately as well.
We've had good relationships with the people in the yard. They're an absolute hoot. And it's wonderful having conversations with neighbours and with them as we go back and forth from the boat to anywhere else.
Obviously on site we have pump out facilities, diesel, electric, water to all pontoons. We also have facilities for dry docking. We have a hydraulic lift system where we can lift boats out the water to do painting and underwater work. We have wet dock facilities which we use for do-it-yourselfers. The workshop takes in a range of work from full repaints, blacking jobs, engineering work from the point of view of stern gear, prop work, and obviously with a small amount of welding work if it needs doing on repairs to work. Major steel work is where we crane them out and put them on the hard standing if a boat needs rebottoming, or major steel work.
Well, there's water, there's electricity, and there's goodwill, because we had a period of time where our inverter was being stupid, and they lent us an extra extension lead to be able to manage the washing machine, which was really lovely. And there's good rubbish facilities. There's not everything that many boaters would want, but it's good for us, because we have a nice boat.
We don't have any toilets facilities at the present time, being such a small marina, but we do have plans for an extension which will include new offices, toilet facilities, shower rooms, and all the cities a lot of new marinas are now insisting on in many ways. The extension we hope to build is in the field next to us, and that will be hopefully house up to another 120 boats. Well, if you came on site, if you wanted to stay for a weekend and not far, we do have picnic benches and so on where people quite happily sit out, have a drink, pull a barbecue out, and obviously we do have the field next door, which is quite useful for people with dogs, where people quite often take the dogs out walking and so on, and we don't mind that as long as people clear up after themselves.
We have a German Shepherd who is not small on a narrowboat, and she creates a lot of fur, but there is really good area for walking. We can take her in the fields and let her off the lead, and she has a fabulous time chasing partridges.
And rabbits, foxes, all the other wildlife that's around.
The marine is tucked in behind a pub, so it's not really pedestrian access, and people wouldn't know it's here unless they know it's here.
We drove past it the first time we came up to
Yes.
visit.
So
We just
that's
didn't spot it at all.
Yeah, that's one of the really good things about it. And also people know who the other boats belong to. That's the bit about a small marina. So we all watch out for each other's boats.
Most of the moorers here themselves all get on very well, and there is a small little community that ends up here at weekends where they all get on together, drink together and you know, and eat out. Certainly in the summer when it's nice, you see quite a few normally around the picnic tables enjoying the evening. One of the reasons we feel people like to come here is simply because it is a small friendly marina. People do get on, and it's not just about boating, it's about making friends and enjoying your boating.
So if you enjoy your boating and happen to be cruising through the Midlands, why not stop by this small and tranquil marina?
Well, that's it for part one, but join me in just a bit when I take a visit to the Hillmorton Lock Flight and Stoke Bruins Canal Museum.